Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Micro Machines World Series. The first question you're probably asking me is, what on earth are you doing looking at this? Well, it's a bit of an example of the dangers of nostalgic thinking. I used to love Micro Machines on the Sega Mega Drive back in the day. I used to play it all the time with my friends. It was a lot of fun. And at the time, the combination of excellent aesthetic with a cool brand, with really fun handling, and a bunch of interesting track designs based on the concept of you being a tiny car racing through what was effectively a messy kid's bedroom, was a good combination. It was a really solid game. So, seeing a revival of that, you think, that's going to be pretty hard to mess up, right? Wrong, apparently. Codemasters brings you what is, in my opinion, a $5 game in a $30 box. More insultingly, it's actually a butchered version of a previous game they made called Toy Box Turbos, which is a significantly better game without the Micro Machines, Nerf, and 1,000,001 other licenses. What you will notice in this game is that it is littered with licenses, which is both a strength and a weakness of it. I think, personally, that adds to the aesthetic, but if you want to play a game that is one giant example of product placement, well, Micro Machines World Series is that. It is a bizarre decision indeed to take that license, take an already existing game, down to details such as the little electric barriers on tracks being absolutely identical, the way that power-ups work, absolutely identical. To say it is a reskin is actually, for once, in many ways fair, and that's not a term I like because it's overused and misused, but in this case, probably is. So, let's have a look at it. Let's look at the void of content, the weird decisions, and what constitutes Micro Machines World Series these days. Well, first things first, the mouse control and the menus, that's always lovely. Head over to the video menu, and it's got what you would expect, as long as you set it to custom. It's not a particularly great looking game, but it's not an awful looking one either. I actually don't hate the aesthetic of it, which was my first worry about it, that it wouldn't be able to replicate the Micro Machines look. There's a few games that have done the concept of you are toys in a toy environment, and there's been quite a few good ones. Some like the Army Men series. I don't understand why, but okay. I enjoy, say, Toy Commander on the Dreamcast, and this does a relatively good job of presenting that aesthetic to you. Unfortunately, there's a lot of other things that it doesn't do very well. Sound options menu, not too bad. Voice chat, well, this is not going to be much of a factor, because this game is primarily online, but unsurprisingly, bearing in mind it is such a bare-bones product for $30, there is barely anybody playing it, and no, it doesn't have any kind of cross-platform compatibility, which may have saved it from instant online death, but it doesn't have that, because of course it doesn't. There's some surprisingly sparse options menus here. Like, that's the gameplay options menu. Why is the tutorial and practice mode in the options menu and not on the main menu? What is battle feed? Couldn't tell you. Doesn't say. No tooltips, of course. Controls work fine enough with the keyboard. I mean, it's a racing game. You're probably going to want to use an analog controller. What you're probably raising your eyebrow at here is ultimate ability? Yes, because apparently everything has to be a Dota-style or MOBA game in some way these days, including Micro Machines. It has two distinct modes. Racing, which is probably what you were looking for, and this weird online battle mode thing, which has 3 cooldown-based abilities and an ultimate. So, I suppose you jammed Overwatch or Dota or League of Legends in there. The mode is dreadfully dull. You're looking at loot boxes here as well. Yep. Take some inspiration from something that works, I guess. Unfortunately, not particularly good. Thankfully, you can't buy these. I actually was quite surprised that they didn't have that. That would be the icing on top of the cake when it came to a value proposition there. But they're full of really boring stuff. If we head to the garage, you'll notice these are the things you can get out of loot boxes. All the cars are unlocked by default. They all perform, at least in the race mode, identically. In the battle mode, they have abilities. Yes, abilities of all things. Wow. Yeah, so you get a weapon, couple of abilities on cooldowns and ultimate. And these vehicles do have different stuff. The weapons, unfortunately, are really unenjoyable to use. They basically have no feedback whatsoever. When you hit an enemy with it, it doesn't show any visual feedback or give you any real oral punch either. So using them is not particularly enjoyable, and aiming them is also a giant pain in the arse because they don't have independent aim. They all basically point forward. There's a nice little selection of cool toys here, no doubt about it. The problem is that all of the work seems to have gone into a mode that, frankly, is pretty terrible. So let me show you it, and then I'll show you the racing. Now, I'll give it credit. It does have a special event, which is sort of like a tavern brawl-esque thing, I suppose. And I do enjoy the fact that games are starting to integrate this, because it gives you a fresh reason to go back every day, in theory. In practice, of course, if there's no player base, it ain't gonna help. In this case, the arcade mode is the battle mode, but with faster cooldowns, basically. That's really about it. So, you've got a skirmish mode, which doesn't earn you any rank ups, so you don't get any loot boxes, experience, or anything for no apparent reason. So if you want to play the ranked match mode, again, isn't going to matter because nobody's actually playing online anyway. You've got to get to rank 5 by playing quick play. Now, you'd think, well, that's online only. You see, that's what you'd think it is, but in reality, what it does is it queues you for about 2 minutes, then gives up and dumps a bunch of bots in the match. Yeah. Which is infuriating, because we know there's nobody playing it, so why don't you just throw the bots in immediately if you're going to do that? And also, don't pretend to not do it. It doesn't tell you that it's doing that. It lies to you, essentially. It pretends there are players when there are none. Which is a bizarre recent trend I've been noticing, particularly with mobile games. You can queue, it's like estimated time 35 seconds. Usually not true. If I actually find a player, I will be very, very surprised. What it's probably going to do is just have me sit here and then dump a bunch of bots in. Like I said, just let me queue against bots. It actually goes up to 12 players, but in the skirmish mode, you can only have 4. And again, you don't earn any experience, so you don't get the little loot box rewards. I mean, there's nothing good in them anyway. It's literally just voice lines, decals, and a couple of recolors, but there you go. It's gone up to 70 seconds now. I'm sitting here waiting, knowing that I'm going to be put into a bot match eventually. It's astonishingly poor design. And it's also very indicative of the severe lack of content that this game's got. There is no tournament mode. There is no dedicated single-player mode, any sort of campaign or story or anything like that, which, frankly, would be fairly easy to do. I mean, you've got a bunch of cool licenses here. I don't see any reason why you couldn't have done that, but of course that would have required effort, which with a hack job game like this is clearly not going to happen. So here we sit. So we've been here for over a minute. Probably about 90 seconds is most likely going to give up and throw me in a bot match. There we go. We're in a game. There will not be any real players in it. I can almost guarantee that. And you'll be able to tell by just looking at the names of them. Now, as I said, every single one of these handles identically in this mode, so it doesn't matter in any way which one I pick. So we'll go with that. You even have to wait for the bots to ready up. Ow! Incredible, really. We'll see if we actually have any players. I don't think it's likely. Alright, here we go. So you'll be able to tell immediately by the names of the people on the cars. Oh, look! They're all completely generic. No. There is no real person in this at all other than me. And yet I had to wait almost 2 minutes for this to happen. And here we go. Now, the actual basic racing experience is okay. You slide around all over the place, and you drift around relatively well-designed courses for the most part. Decent amount of hazards in them and all that kind of thing. Mostly nice in terms of the aesthetic, although it can also, goddamn, the ice level. Oh my lord. I've actually never played the ice level before, but I do remember the original game, the ice level was an absolute nightmare as well. Unfortunately, this is not a problem for the bots on this one. Beating the bots is not that hard, but apparently they don't follow the same rules as you do when it comes to ice, which is lovely. Anyway, you know, these are aesthetically not too bad. In this case, you're a tiny little car driving around a garden. There's a bunch of cool toy box-like levels and all that sort of thing. That's absolutely fine. That's probably the strongest aspect of the game. As I mentioned, a lot of this stuff, however, is repurposed from that other game, Toy Box Turbos. So you can't really give them too much credit for that. But as a standalone product, if we ignored the fact that game existed, that was totally fine. Now, power-ups wise, there are only 3 of them, and the balance between them is frankly absurd. This Nerf mine that I have right here can actually blow up half the pack immediately, forcing them to eventually respawn. The other 2 are some tiny little Nerf blaster, which is a momentary little stun, which makes absolutely no difference, and a hammer, which can destroy a car if you happen to hit it. That's it. Only 3 of them, which is pretty ridiculous. The fact that they're all Nerf branded is kind of cute, I guess, but there was a severe lack of effort put into that, and the lack of variety gets old really, really quickly. This is actually a horrendous track. I know I'm playing very, very badly, but like I said, you can clearly see that the AI cars are not affected at all by the ice. They are having no problems with it at all. You can clearly see it. They're not even slipping and sliding in any way. Good lord. And finally caught up to them. Like I said, that's what the little Nerf blaster does. That's about it. That bomb will kill half the pack, which is horrendously imbalanced. Especially when the races are 12 players. It's not a bad little race. It's not a bad little racer either. And like I said, I really do like the aesthetic, although this track is admittedly one of the weaker ones in that aspect. The fact that I can't choose a track in the main mode of the game is a little bizarre. Can't set up a lobby or anything like that. That functionality is not there. It's just basic matchmaking, and it'll pick that stuff for you. The skirmish mode has mutators. And by mutators, I mean 1 mutator. Just 1. If it actually launched with some, then I may have changed my mind on that. But no, it actually doesn't. And there we go, exiting this. You can even see by the avatars that there's no real people in here. It's just so astonishing to see a queue system work that way. It's okay. Like, it's not bad. It's just everything else is so woefully lacking for the price tag. Now, I've shown you that mode. I'm going to show you, and I'm not going to sit here for another 70 bloody seconds to do it, this bloody battle mode. It's, oh, it is incredible. So, I think free-for-all will do it. We can pick one of these levels. Let's pick one that actually looks cool. There aren't really that many, as you can see. These are just the battle arenas. We'll go with Pocket Panic. That looks pretty good. Score limit, we'll go just for 5. 2-minute time limit. Mutators. In the case of the battle mode, there's 5 of them. So you can just do primary weapon. I cannot imagine why you'd want to do that. It would be astonishingly tedious. Respawn time, full respawn time, health pickups. That's it. So basically what you just saw is what that daily mode does. There needs to be way more variety in this. So let me show you this kind of MOBA style mode here. Good lord. Alright, so we load. There's 4 of us. You have a weapon, a couple of cooldowns, and an ultimate. And I hope you like being horribly blinded. And this is what the mode is. You sort of drive around, hold the fire button down, occasionally use your ability, and then that's it. For some reason, it looks like it spawned a couple of the same cars. Like I said, the different cars do have different abilities. Actually, no, it's actually given us all the same abilities. That's a little weird. I wonder if that was because of the auto selection or something. It also doesn't appear to have ultimates enabled. I actually think this mode doesn't work the same way as the Q1 does. So that's irritating as well, simply because the skirmish mode doesn't seem to have the same feature set as that sit 80 or 90 seconds in a queue to eventually get a bot match mode. Oh my. Unless it's elimination, but I don't think that is the case. from what I can tell. We'll give it a quick try, just in case. I don't think so. Oh, yeah, this is just race and the last person gets eliminated. All right, so not really interested in that. Won't let me actually quit out of it, but hey. You know what would have been nice? Take those abilities from your silly little arena battle mode and put them into the racing game. What a concept. Wouldn't that have made it significantly more interesting? Every car would have different abilities and a little bit of gameplay variety. Yes! Yes, it would! Absolutely. Keeping the two modes separate is a completely bizarre decision. Apparently, if I want to show you the proper battle mode, I am going to have to go to quick play and wait again. Battle. Whew! While we're sitting here, let's talk about how insulting it is to present a game with this little content for $30. If this were $5, this would be something that I'd say, yeah, it's alright. The racing isn't bad. It's pleasingly slippy and slidey. There aren't many tracks, but the ones that they have a nice amount of detail in them. But everything else is so half-arsed. And there is no excuse for that when you have literally cannibalized a game you made 3 years ago to make this. How do you go from that to less stuff? Apparently this is how. It's a head scratcher, it really is. If they drop the price of this to about $5 and maybe actually offer some updates and content, not paid content, that would be ridiculous. This would be a, it's okay, pick it up in a sale sort of recommendation. But as it stands, at $30, it would have to be your nostalgia very much taking over your sense of rational thought. 80 seconds is how long it takes. Here we go. Little capture the flag mode. Can I queue specifically for capture the flag? Well, no. Because of course not. So, pick one of these. Pick the Agent Atom there. And have a quick look at their abilities. Flashbang, stealth. Oh, it's the exact same one. Okay, let's pick a different one then. There we go. That one's different. Snowball launcher. We'll have that one. We'll drive that. In come the incredible bots. And here is this mode. I can't recall anybody asking for class-based hero loadouts in the Micro Machines game. Hey. And that's basically what it is. You're on a little battle arena. You got your abilities. You have one weapon and one weapon only. The only pickups are health pickups. And that's it. This is it. Not awful if you massively fleshed it out.
I have the flag.
Not awful if you allowed people to specifically queue for things like the capture the flag variant. I'm going to imagine the reason they did not do that is because they saw it coming a mile away that this game was going to have serious population problems. So as a result, they didn't even let you choose those queues. They immediately threw them into the same playlist, which is a lack of consumer choice and something I don't approve of. It's mildly understandable for what it is. So my conclusion, under any circumstances would I recommend Micro Machines World Series under its current conditions? No. No, I would not. Unless the game dropped to about $5 or went free. I think you could have very easily made this a free-to-play game. And frankly, with the amount of content that it's got, not paying for it would be a good option. But if you want a game that is like this and is quite literally better in every possible respect, with the perhaps two minor elements of this has some lines by Brian Blessed in it, like about 15 of them, and it has that Micro Machines and Nerf branding, just get Toy Box Turbos. It is a more enjoyable, more fleshed out experience. This is just an unfortunate example of a game that had no right to be released in such a rushed state, is a complete waste of potential, and is several steps backwards from the game that they made it out of. I'm not really sure how you ever do that. Like, if I wasn't a more sensible person, I'd almost say that was malicious by Codemasters. Oh dear. Well, my childhood's dead. Hopefully some of you can share in my suffering. At its core, could be okay. Just give me 10 times the amount of content for that price. And swap around some of these thoroughly bizarre design decisions when it comes to how you can get into those game modes and queues. My name has been TotalBiscuit, taking a look at Micro Machines World Series, available for a blisteringly silly $30, or your regional equivalent on PC, Xbox One, and PlayStation 4. If you enjoyed this video, by all means do feel free to click the like button. If not, the dislike button is right over there, and frankly, I don't blame you. I'll see you next time.
This'll shock ya!